Hi guys. So yeah, this is what my third blog post. I thought I'd give a little bit of a rest to the other stuff that I've been doing. Yeah, so it's great to have you here again. Thank you very much for supporting me, and yeah, let's just get straight into it, shall we? This is just my opportunity to waffle at you, I guess. But yeah, I've been thinking a little bit about productivity and how do we navigate that. So, when our creative juices are running low, other things that we can do to combat that, to stop it from taking over and becoming an issue where either we don't have any ideas or we just can't think. Yeah. So I'm going to use an analogy at first. Let's just imagine a well. This well of that is, over time you've been using it, you've been getting water out, and you've been feeding, watering yourself, watering your plants and everything, and then all of a sudden that well it dries up. Well, what do we do? What's the course of action there? And the thing that you would either do is you would either go to somewhere else where there is water and you would build a new well, or you would create channels from somewhere else close to that well, to refill, so that water could fill that well back up. So the first thing that you could do, going somewhere else, to build a new well, musically that would only be a last case scenario, wouldn't it? Where, oh no, okay then, this is a dead end. Musically, I'm just going around in circles. I need to learn a new genre or multiple genres, expand my musical understanding. Yeah, so that I would take a few different things. That would take theory, so you maybe use different modes, learning different cultures. So there's a little bit of history there, and geology and geography and whatnot. There's asking friends. That's a big one. Learning how different things slot together, and the list goes on, doesn't it? Yeah. So there's lots of things that you do there to expand your musical knowledge. Sometimes though we already have that knowledge and we just need a top up, and that's where creating new income streams to that well would work great. I said well then. So those are two scenarios there where I would say it's really important to understand music. But actually what I would say, is that when you're approaching your tracks and whatnot, that it's not always necessarily the music that you have to worry about. And in fact, it's 90% of the time it's not. So I'm going to talk about the theory of semiotics now. And essentially that is it's a film thing. That means that when you're watching a film, anything in that cue when you're watching a film relates to the storyline or the plot line or the genre. Yeah. So if you were watching a Western, for instance, there are things that you would expect. For example, you would expect horses, gunslinging, cowboys and Native Americans, etc., etc., etc. Yeah. So there are things there that you would, should be there. And it's the same with music. I'm using a film theory because it relates to this music thing as well. So if you're writing in a I don't know, an EDM style, for instance, then you would know, an EDM has very, very typical things that it has. How you have rises, you have like fat kicks, a specific snappy snare sound, hi-hats that are usually doing really fast off beats and counter rhythms and whatnot. So you know, and then you've got like a really deep bass line there, and your melody is way up here, and then there's lots of space, actually harmonic space, that's missing. Yeah, so there's that's just EDM. We can look at orchestral as well, because we've been doing a lot of orchestral. Like so you'd have the typical instrumentation there, and you would have a counterpoint. So that counterpoint is the way that two or more lines are moving towards or away from each other. Yeah. Then you've got voice leading. So voice leading is how much of a gap there is between the notes in a single line. So making sure they're flowing. That's quite a conjunct way of writing music. Or is it or is it a disjunct way where the notes are jumping up and down, and whatnot. Both are absolutely fine. Both relate to different genres within orchestral or any style of music, to be honest. Those are the things that I would typically think of. Then I would think of the way that motifs and notes are actually brought together. So in orchestral music, you have different small ideas that you can actually tie in. So like using upper or lower neighbor notes, which is just a note next to above or next to below. Yeah. There's lots of things. There's using hairpins and expression, in that sense, to swell or diminuendo the phrases. And there's lots of timbre difference as well, so like the sound of the instrument, how it sounds when it's quiet, how it sounds when it's loud. If it's a woodwind instrument or an instrument you blow, a brass instrument, it's how hard are you blowing? Are you overblowing? Are different techniques? There's emphasis on that in orchestral. Pop music, it's very much it's all about the melody. It's all about the melody, and then it's all about the drums, and then it's all about the bass. So it's it's getting those three things to marry a lot of the time. And the structure, in every single one of these there's a fixed structure that you would have. So orchestral, it's a bit more free. Yeah. In pop music, it's verse, chorus, chorus, maybe another verse followed by a tag at the end, followed by another chorus to finish, and an outro if you really wanted it. EDM, it's a very free as well. The emphasis there is development. Yeah, so how are you taking that? How are you incorporating new sounds? All about signature sounds. That's a very trailer music kind of language. They're always talking about the signature sound, but it comes from that idea in EDM of having that one sound that just hooks you. Instead of like ABBA, they had the hook, which was the small motif idea that they would bring back every now and again, and it'd have two or three, maybe even four sometimes in a song. Whereas actually in EDM, it's the same concept, but it's just shrunk down to a sound. It's just a sound, like they've taken this acousmatic way of thinking. Yeah, so acousmatic music is music that's just made from everyday sounds, stretched, morphed, and whatnot to create a piece. That's what acousmatic music is. It's really cool. If you haven't looked at it, it's not a very popular thing to listen to because it's not well known. But acousmatic music is that's kind of where EDM took its thing from. But I don't think EDM, even people in that genre, knew about it. Anyway, I'm waffling. So yeah, you have these ideas, and what you do is you just log them up here, or you can write them down, different techniques, etc., and then you can just throw them in, yeah, and build a foundation of your track just with that. That's all you need. Yeah, you're just creating a small foundation for your other ideas, the stuff that you're just going to come up with afterwards, to go on top. And it's a very, very good way of working. And when I don't have ideas, that's what I do. So yeah, in conclusion, I would say those are the things that you would need if you're struggling with writing music. You've got writer's block. Get the ideas for that genre. Do a little bit of research if you need to. Then throw them into your work. Make sure that they're in the structure that you need it in that genre. If it's library music, then you're going to have an episodic form, so it's going to be 3 different rising sections, that are getting louder in intensity, and then put your idea over the top of it. And that's generally what all styles of music are doing, even if they're they seem quite real and new and fresh and whatnot. We've only got in Western music we've only got 12 notes. So as much as I would love to say that like the artsy side of me would turn around and say, I came up with that idea all on my own, it's so unique and fresh. Nothing is unique, nothing is fresh. The way it becomes fresh is that you take 2 different genres, 2 things that typically aren't put together, and you put them together, and you find a way to make that work. And that's something I would say, do that. That's really, really a really good way of working. Put in a guitar and a violin in a pop song, for an intro. That would be really unique, because there's not many times, actually, at least in British music, that in British pop music, you don't usually hear that. It's usually, like EDM techniques with a piano or some synths, or, a vocal line to start off, or just an acoustic guitar, if you're Ed Sheeran. So, like pairing things together like that is really good. That's why, there's been so many really big songs over the years that have, used instruments that you wouldn't typically hear in a pop song. And the whole reason is because that's what makes the genre fresh. That's what breathes new life in. And that's why you typically in the top 40, you will get 5 songs that are actually pretty good. They've been well made, well crafted. And then the rest of them, they're kind of just like fillers, and they feel like fillers because generally we don't remember them, because there's nothing memorable about them, because they haven't added that element in, because we've heard it so many times, that it just becomes a little bit dull. It's a little bit like, so like one of my favorite bands, Muse. I love them, I really do, even now. But there's a lot of people who don't generally like Muse now. They like Muse 10, 15 years ago, because as time's gone on, they've adapted a little bit, like Bob Dylan. Really, he did the same thing, where they had their sound, and whatnot. And they made 2.5 albums of pretty much the same sound, the same genre, coming up with new ideas, obviously, but you could tell it was Muse. And then they come out with their next album, and it's a bit more synthy, and then it gets a little bit more synthy, and essentially the band is just evolving, and it's just creating new avenues. And what that did for Muse was they lost some followers, and I think even now their following's a little bit, at least for the newer stuff, the following is a little bit lower, actually. But what they did do is that they brought in a whole new like mass of people, essentially, who like their music, and I think that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's not just about feeding one small group of people. you know, with the same music over and over and over again, because eventually you're going to lose those people anyway, because they're going to get bored. So it's making things fresh and bringing new people in. And the thing that music that I just love about music really is it's, you know, if you're doing that and you continue to develop and whatnot, then actually fan bases recycle. They come back around a lot of the time. You know, the stuff that I was listening to 10-15 years ago, I'm finding that I'm listening to again. You know, it's just because, you know, I really like it. And I've actually, and I think everybody can relate to this at some point, you know, once you get to your 30s, your late 20s, whatever, you lose a little bit more touch in what music is coming out now. And that means that the older bands you go back to, and then you find new music from the older bands, and you're like, oh, I'm really excited about this again. So, you know, it's a good thing. It's a really, really good thing. So I just want to encourage you, you know, just with the final words. And by the way, if you just seen a little bit of a jump in the video, then that was because my phone said I was talking too much and stopped the video, so I had to go back and start again. Oh no, how sad. Yeah, so yeah, if you're feeling, you know, if you're feeling uninspired, then please, you know, take them on board. You know, thank you very much for listening to me natter on again. And yeah, I'm thinking I might have to make a t-shirt or something with, like, you know, waffling or something on it. I don't know. That I could wear every time I open my mouth. But yeah, yeah, I hope that helps you as well. And, you know, sometimes it can just be as easy as going for a walk as well, clearing your head, getting the things that are apparent right, you know, in the forefront of your mind, just out of the way, you know. And sometimes you can do that with a simple walk, or going out with your friends. So I hope that was useful. I hope it gave you value, and I will see you again for another vlog, or, you know, in this series that we're doing as well, with this pop soul track, which we'll get back onto in the next few days. Okay, see you later, guys.